One of the major components on adopting AI in your business is actually picking the platform which best suits your needs. And in this video, I wanted to go through a little bit of an experiment and actually ask AI what it recommends for me. Because this could be a method that you could use to help in the adoption process. And let's face it, this is an experiment, and experimenting is part of the lean AI framework process. So why not run the experiment? Now, a bit of a disclosure before I get into the video. I am probably larger a ChatGPT or Codex user. Probably about 80% of my work is done in that platform at the moment. That doesn't mean it's not going to change. The majority of the other 20%, I'd probably say about 15%, would be done in Copilot, because I find that both of them can work really well together, but that is a video for another day. The last 5% would be using Gemini, especially in a Google search. Now, I do use Claude, but not necessarily for my work processes. I do have my reasons for that, and once again, that's a video for another day. But I do want to make sure that I am kept up to speed in all of the platforms, and that is probably the main reason why I'm using Claude. Now, the answer that I get from AI might surprise you. So let's get into it, and let's start by asking ChatGPT, since that is my major platform that I do use. So here is the question that I asked ChatGPT. Basically, I wanted to know, with all the turmoil that's going on in the AI space, there's all of these new platforms coming out, all these brand new models coming out, and there's also financial risk, which appears to be there. I wanted to know, where should I invest most of my time in adopting AI? And so it's interesting that in ChatGPT, there is my prompt. If you want to copy it down, then by all means, you can run exactly the same thing. ChatGPT actually recommended that I used Microsoft, mainly because it recognizes that I am in the Microsoft ecosystem. I use Azure and SharePoint as well as OneDrive a fair bit. So that was quite interesting, that I get a fairly unbiased result out of ChatGPT, and it did it based on my usage, or how it understood my usage. And then it goes into a little bit more detail. So then I thought, well, let's ask Copilot and see what it comes up with. So here is my Copilot answer. So over here, let me just collapse that. So over here, I have my Copilot answer. Once again, exactly the same prompt. And so basically, it identified what I wanted to do. So I didn't want to, embed myself into one ecosystem and then they go broke. That's probably one of my larger concerns here. And basically what it's come up with is that 80% of my work should be done inside of Microsoft. And you know what? I actually fundamentally agree. I think that my patterns have slowly been transitioning towards Microsoft, especially since they integrated Claude, because since that point, I've found that the Copilot usage, or the abilities of Copilot, have just been a lot higher. So 80% of my work should be done in business work, should be done inside of Microsoft. It does recommend OpenAI to be like my, for my more heavier lifting type work. So what about Claude? Claude is outstanding. It writes, fantastically, etc., etc. But I use Claude, so it's got the answer there. And where does Google sit? So Copilot actually gave me a fairly rounded thing. Now let's see what it's got in its conclusion. So first layer, decision framework. So basically what it was explaining is that this becomes more of not necessarily an AI sort of question, but more of a framework type of question, which I actually really do agree with. So where are we? What I'll do personally. So core platform, use Microsoft 365, Copilot basically. Inside of that, I'm for all my power stuff, use ChatGPT Business. So for my technical, use Codex. It does suggest GitHub Copilot, which, you know what, no, thank you, but no. I will stick with its suggestion of Codex. And so I found that really, really interesting. So why don't I ask Claude? Because in all fairness, both of these platforms probably know my patterns better than what Claude does. So over here, I do have Claude. Then let me see what it has come up with. So once again, exactly the same prompt. So honestly, no vendor can be promised to be fully stable. So totally get it. That's part of the reason why I'm asking the question. But in here, it says that my primary focus should be, I know it's in here somewhere, my actual recommendation, I'll leave this on screen if you want to have a look at it, would be to stay with Claude. Well, yeah, I'm not a Claude user. Maybe that's the reason why it came up with this and didn't recognize that I'm more of a Codex and Copilot OpenAI kind of Microsoft OpenAI ecosystem here. And it is interesting that there has been lots of talk about the Chinese open source models, and it's telling me to stay away from it. I think there's a little bit of bias coming in there. So I would be really interested if anyone in the audience actually asks the same question and see, and if they are heavy Claude users, whether or not they get the same sort of answer as I do, stick with Claude, and so forth. Because I think that the answer I'm getting out of Claude at the moment is a little bit biased towards Claude, because it's basically saying for me to use that as my primary and then keep Copilot just for my little, Microsoft 365 stuff. All right. Anyway, that's enough for me. I thought this was a very useful experiment, which is part of the Lean AI framework. If you want to know more, reach out, pop a comment in the comment below and say hi. But otherwise, enough for me. As part of your AI adoption process, this might be a really useful thing to do, and see what AI comes up with, because AI actually knows a little bit more about you than what we probably give it credit for. Anyway, that's enough from me. I'm not saying that this is the be all and end all in your adoption process, but it is something that you can add into the mix. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching AI Masters Dojo, where you master the art of AI. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest content. To learn more about what we cover here on the channel, make sure to check out the dojo using the links in the description below. Drop your questions or thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, keep striving to master the art of AI. See you in the next video.